Hey everyone, welcome back to the realm. I'm Gina, and say hi everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I want
I'm
something
Brian.
I want something a little more enthusiastic than that. Can we all say hi?
Hey!
Hey, everybody.
A
Welcome
rare
to the
event,
show.
right? It's a rare event. We have 8 out of 9 of us here for
Yep.
this podcast tonight. This is amazing. I love seeing our whole team. So we have just wave, not the jazz hands. Put your hand, high five a jazz hand when I call your name. But we have Brian F with us, and then we have a Rich with us, Amy, and we have Jenny. We have Rob. We have Kes, and we have Brian F. I mean S. Gosh, there's too
That's
much.
Brian.
Yeah, we have to come up with a new name for you
Yeah,
guys.
there's going to be a nickname situation there.
Yeah. All right. So something really exciting happening this last weekend, and this is what we're here to talk about today. So the team, most of the team, went on an investigation last weekend for an entire weekend. Brian Stemp is our one of our investigators. He arranged the whole weekend. Thank you, Brian. That was really awesome find.
Thanks, Brian. It was great.
So Brian's S, Jenny, Rich, Rob, and Amy went to Boyd, Minnesota, to the Boyd House, which is a haunted location. So they're going to tell us all about their investigation tonight. This is part 1. And the reason I say that is because tonight we're going to talk about the investigation. Everybody's going to talk about their experiences. And then from there, we're going to go through the evidence. After this episode, we're going to continue to go through the evidence, and we're going to give you a part 2 with all of the evidence, because I feel like there's going to be some pretty good stuff once we hear everybody's stories tonight. So with that, I'm going to pull this directly off the website for the Boyd House. If you go to our Facebook page, and I think also on our Instagram, we have a couple photos that we uploaded of the team's time there and some pictures of the house. And Brian S had done the history on this place whenever he found it. But I'll just briefly go through what the website talks about. The Eckhart family had owned it, and they moved to the house in 1912. He was a businessman, and I think he had his hand dipped in everything. And Brian will tell us a little bit more about it, but it sounds like his wife and children passed away in the home. So I don't want to take a lot away from the stuff that Brian's going to give us. But if you go to the website, it will talk about the history. It talks about the town history. The town was established in 1844. And the area has been, I think the area is rich in paranormal history, but specifically this house. And I'm going to let Brian Stemp take over just to give us a brief history on the house, and then we're gonna interview the rest of the folks here and find out what their experience was. So go ahead.
All right. Well, just like Gina said, 5 of us went to beautiful Boyd, Minnesota, which was a hike. It was about just a touch over 500 miles from here. Very western edge of Minnesota. I asked one person, she said we were about 30 to 40 minutes away from South Dakota. That's how far it was. So this place was an absolute hike. But anywho, the address is 217 Scandia Avenue. It's Scandia Avenue. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, 2120 square feet. It's got beautiful woodwork in it. The house was stunning. It's got a big, full front porch on it. The history of it is it was built in 1901, but the deed to the land goes all the way back to 1884, which the railroad actually owned the lot itself, and it was entrusted to a man named Charles Hatch. And it was also, sorry for my voice, I have a cold. And it was He had said that he committed suicide by shooting himself. Didn't say in the house, on the land, or anywhere. I thought that was interesting too. The house passed through a couple of people through here and there, but just like Gina had said, the main owners were the Eckhart family. Fred and Minnie Eckhart moved there with their 4 of 11 children they ended up having. They moved there to Boyd in 1906. They purchased the house in 1912. Their 4 children were Selma, Alfred, Oscar, and Elsa. Fred, just like Gina said, Fred was very popular in the community. He delved in a general merchandise store with his brother-in-law, became a well-respected contributor to the community. He also helped build the church, which you could see the church from the porch. It was just off to the right side. Rich and I commented on that. We drove by it one Saturday evening, and we all saw the church right there. They ended up having 11 children. 2 died in the house, along with eventually Fred and Minnie also died in the house. Amy had said, which I did not know, when Fred died, his body was left in state for 3 days in what we call like the parlor room or the chandelier room, which they had signs on there you could not swing on the chandelier, which Rob and I thought that was kind of funny because obviously somebody did that at one time.
I feel like it was a valid ask of this group that went there. That's all I'm saying.
Like, it was right there. Like, do not swing on the chandelier.
I feel like, that was fair.
It was tempting. It was a good chandelier.
Yeah. Obviously it held up to somebody. So, but anywho, Fred had died. Fred died in 1958. Let me go back. Minnie died of a stroke in 55, and she had her funeral inside of the house as well. Fred died in 1958 at the age of 76. The 2 children, they didn't say. They just said they died in infancy in the house. So right there's 4. Also, too, and delving into the history, a previous owner to the Eckharts also died in the home. So that's 5. That's 5 people there that have died in the house. The house itself was a whitewashed house. It had beautiful leaded windows in it, beautiful wood window, beautiful staircase to it. Rich and I were commenting on the stair. Beautiful wood in there. Fred himself, go back to that. Fred was very popular in the city. He helped he had his hand in everything, Gina, just like you said, which I thought was really cool too. Rich and I saw him when we walked in there. When he owned the general store, instead of dealing with money, he minted his own coins.
Yep,
and was dealing and Jill is the owner. Jill had 2 of the coins on like the roller. I don't know if it's a rolling desk or what it was, but the actual 2 coins he sold people, instead of people using money, they dealt with the coins. I thought that was very interesting as well. The house has passed down for a while. I believe Jill bought it. Jill and her husband, Jill Shelley, who's the current owner, bought it in 2019 from so on. And they've done a lot of work on the house. And now is open to every paranormal team that wants to spend the night there. They've done multiple YouTube videos, investigations. People have found all sorts of different things. We're going through the evidence now, and Rich and I have found some stuff, and I'm not even a third of the way through yet. Sorry, my voice is going.
I feel really bad. I could have done the history if you would have told me you were sick. You didn't have to do that.
I just got it yesterday.
Oh gosh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. So Brian, actually, I heard that it is kind of like an Airbnb. Am I correct?
Yes, I didn't know that either.
People can just kind of like rent this.
It is a haunted Airbnb.
Yeah, so which is a whole new genre of Airbnbs that are out there. I say we go do a lot of traveling now.
It's just like Brumder.
Yeah,
Brumder's the same way.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, Rich, all I really got
yes,
is Vincent Gambini would say, so what'd you find?
Well, I can't like Brian said, we're still going over recordings. I gave you a recorder. Brian's got one. I've got one. Jenny's listening to one. I had 4. Rob has his. So, I mean, we had 5 different recorders out. I think we covered it pretty well. And kind of what Brian alluded to is we've just started listening. I think I'm like almost 4 hours into mine.
That's what I am.
And I've got a whole page in a notebook of anomalies that don't fit. A couple of them I know, like Jenny, I think had a couple upstairs, and she had the recorder from the girls' room, which I was real interested to get into. That's why I gave it to her to listen to, because I had the other one that was downstairs. And I told her, I said, I said from the beginning, if we're gonna get something, it's probably gonna be in that room, just the way with the kids being there and the way they have the room set up and stuff. And I think I've heard different evidence from Jill Shelley's team and stuff, and there's a lot of kid voices and stuff. I cannot confirm nor deny that I may have voices on my recorder that sound like they could be child. We'll have to dig into that a little bit. A lot of the stuff I found so far is clear that it's something, but you get a lot of the mumble, or it's such a whisper, it's hard to tell what it's saying type thing. So I think as a group, we're going to have to put our heads together and listen to some of these and see, what do we think we hear, or is it nothing? But recorder wise, that's about what we have. I think from first, when you first get up to the house, it's an old house. I mean, it's kind of creepy. Brian's sitting in his car, not inside the house. I don't know why he was
Scared.
He's in his car instead of being inside the warm house. But anyway, that's beside the point.
His favorite song might have been on. We all do that. He had to let it play.
A repeat.
Baby Got Back was on, and he said, "I can't leave.
Brian,
I got to hear the rest of it."
Brian F., is that true? Was Baby Got Back on the radio and you just didn't want to get out of the car?
No. But when we got there, we met up with Brian, and he had been there for a little bit, and he showed us a video clip. I think, is it on your phone?
Yeah,
that one, of some interaction he had when he got there with the K2, or was it the millimeter?
It's both.
K2 Mel, and he could get the EMF to go up and down on demand, and temperature. It was temperature too, right? Yeah. So that was kind of interesting, and it would go off like kind of as he was talking to it, it would respond. So we're going to dig into that a little bit. That was
one I was curious about that one, because that was one of the first things that you said, is that when Brian got there, he was already getting stuff, and you had the K2 going and the EMF, and you know what I mean? So right away it sounded like personal experiences started happening. From what I can tell, just from the bits that we've been kind of passing back and forth, is that everybody kind of had personal experiences here.
Yeah, but you know what? And to go with that, we had enough stuff, I think, that we haven't had on a lot of previous investigations. We had a lot of interaction with the equipment, where I know the girls were asking questions and they were getting the ball. It was more of it kind of made sense as opposed to the old flashlight thing, or it starts going off like every third question. It had something behind it, because we've never had that before. So that was kind of interesting. But for every experience like that, then we had some that didn't make sense, or I think we debunked. I think Amy and Rob can talk about it as well, but we had an experience down in the basement with some steps creaking, and we thought it was Brian, and it wasn't. But I think they can bring that up as well and talk about that. So I think we were able to debunk some stuff while we were there. But
when you say when I was saying personal experiences, you kind of put a finer point on it. What I was kind of getting at is that there's times where you have a personal experience like we did at the Oshkosh Grand, but these personal experiences sound like there was a lot, but everything was jiving with the equipment as it was going on. So it wasn't just one of those feeling things. It was a personal experience getting validated in the moment,
which
is kind of cool.
that's what I really want to. That's what I really want to dive into right now, and I think that I'm going to ask Amy to start because I feel like
Yeah, I want to know
Amy
about
had
this
the
stuff.
most incredible or overwhelming type of experience there. So why don't you tell everybody what happened?
Sure. So I mean, it was the first night, so it kind of set the tone, I think, for me for the rest of the weekend. Honestly, I was tired after that night, but so I mean, I guess you would almost have to see a diagram of like where everybody was sleeping too to understand it. But Rob and I were in a room that was adjoined to, I guess, where Jenny and Rich were sleeping, but there was like a whole room in between. Sorry, my cat keeps doing it. And so I could probably not reach Rob, or maybe if I reached my arm out really far, I could reach his head. But we're pretty much sleeping head to head in
Yep.
on cots in the room. And so I don't know what time it was at, but I thought I was awake. And I mean, I would still swear I was awake. And I was laying on my stomach. Something was definitely sitting on my back. And so I could feel hands around my ankles and something sitting on my back.
Oh my god!
And
I'm just hearing this for the first time. So
yeah. And so, and I mean, I'm not thinking like, I don't go into these places thinking, "Ooh, we're going to find something." Like, I'm a skeptic, and you know, I've never had that happen before. Not in my own house, not in any places that we've investigated. Um, so it happened the first time, and I felt like it lasted 25 minutes, but I'm sure it was like a minute or two. And I know that I was panicking, and I could see Rob, and I could see the room just as it was, not like where you're in the dream state and you look around and everything's like the same but different. I was awake, and I couldn't call out, I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything. And I was panicking. Um,
did you feel like you could breathe, or like did that
no,
even feel
I
like you?
couldn't
Okay.
breathe. No, I felt like I was being pressed into the floor.
Oh my
And
god!
so I know that it felt like I was either being dragged or like drowning, like I was trying to paddle, like not paddle, but like I was trying to basically like claw my way out of the situation, but I couldn't move.
Oh my god!
And then it stopped like instantly. And I don't really know what happened in between that time and then the next time, but then it happened again in a few more minutes. Probably about a half an hour maybe in between. And the same thing, and I felt like it lasted longer. I still couldn't, you know, I don't know, I was freaking out. And it was the same sensation. Still couldn't move, super panicking, couldn't breathe. I was trying to get away, get out of it, get this thing off my back. And then at some point, Rob got up to use the bathroom. And I mean, I don't really even know what I said. I was freaking out. And I mean, that was my experience. So the third thing was, though, which made me weirdly feel better, but directly after those two panic attack situations before Rob got up, I did feel a cat walk across me and looked at it, and I saw a tail and a cat butt essentially walking away from me. But, you know, I should add, we also have cats that do that constantly when we're home. So it could have just been like a dream state that I was in at that time. But I mean, those two panicking situations, I was awake. I'm 99% sure that I was awake when that was happening.
And Rob, do you remember what she said to you, or do you remember?
She was mentioning that she had a bad dream. Now, it was kind of a weird situation for me as well because I mean I had to go to the bathroom. I woke up and I had to go, right? And she was just saying something about she had a weird dream. And at the same time, I got up and I was looking for these flip flops that I have at home. I use them for slippers, and I couldn't find them. And I'm like, I know I just had them. I wore them to bed. I just had them, and I'm looking around by my bed, and I have to go to the bathroom, and she's telling me something, and I'm kind of like, yeah, and I never brought them.
I have him on
Never brought
video.
'em,
I have
but
him
I
on
was
video trying to put him on. Because when he said that, we were watching back the video to see if we could see anything with Amy having an issue. You see Rob stand up, and then you see his feet kicking underneath the cot. Like he goes, "Yeah, that's when I was looking for those flip flops."
yeah, I was looking all over for them. So I went to the bathroom, and then I came back, and then she told me about the situation, and I listened, and I actually felt guilty that I kind of blew it off because knowing Amy for as many decades as I've known her, this isn't like a typical thing. She's she's my wife. We share a bed. She isn't a nightmare person. She doesn't wake up in panics. This isn't a typical thing for her. And just knowing her as long as I have and as well as I know her, this really bothered her and really freaked her out. And there's something so genuine about it. Um, it's just not her. It's not in her character. And even so, the next night, there's only one bed in the whole place, and we slept in that bed. And she is not a snuggler in bed, and she was clinging to me all night.
I bet.
I mean, she was clinging to me all night. And the cat thing also is just to add on to that is a story that's used a lot, or not used a lot, but has been reported a lot about a ghost cat.
At that location?
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh.
it is a report. It has been reported more than once about the ghost cat.
Did you guys
And
know that
our
before?
cats do that.
Yeah, we did.
Our cats do that, and we just did an episode on night attacks and night hags, and I get that, and I get that. I'm an open-minded believer. Okay, so I don't think everything's every bump in the night is a ghost, and
Right.
I don't want to just completely disregard this whole thing, but it's just the way she's acting and the way she acted to me is this is something more genuine than happened. And there's also reports of people sleeping and having their ankles grabbed. She was not aware of this until after. We didn't even want to tell her about it right away because once we found out, it was like, well, we got another night to spend here.
I'm
So
glad
yeah,
I didn't go on this one.
well, it was so when I woke up, it was almost like I was tired. I had to pee. I had to go now. I couldn't find these. I was positive I had these slippers. So just me looking for that was such a weird situation.
Yeah.
I was so sure I had them with me, and I never even brought them. That I had wore them earlier in the night, but I never even brought them. And I don't know what ghost slippers have to do with anything, but yeah. And there was a serious and passionate desperation in her tone that it was a weird situation.
I was just going to ask if when you were looking at the video and you said you could see Rob, did you notice anything with Amy?
No, I couldn't see
can't
Amy on that
see.
camera.
Now, I was sleeping in front of the camera.
No,
Okay.
yeah, where he,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
And that
So-
was an interesting situation because it
Okay.
is like it's like 3 rooms kind of just that are like one room though. Like a living room. We made jokes that one side of it was the woman's parlor and the other side was the smoking parlor. But we were going to originally put 3 cameras in there to cover the whole room.
Mhm.
And we decided we would have just one that goes to the kitchen where you would have seen Amy. And I slept in front of that one because we already had a kitchen camera. And then we were going to have 2 crossing that whole area. And we decided on one. And that one camera, you couldn't see Amy.
Interesting.
So I
So,
do
like,
have a question
And
though.
earlier in that night, what is that device that says all the little words on the screen?
it's an Ovilus, but that but that's just a brand name thing. Yeah,
The
ours had
Ovilus said
Spirit Chat.
it said sleep attack that night before this
Seriously.
happened. I'm not into that.
That's
piece
what
of
I wanted to
equipment.
ask.
I don't
Yep.
really see that as this like
Did
a
you guys
really
get a
good piece of
picture of that?
equipment. It said, I don't know if we do, but I mean, it might be on video because we were sitting in the master bedroom, I believe, and Jenny had it, I believe. So we did have a camera in there.
If it's there, it should be on the body cams too. Then
Also,
you
we
got
talked
bed
about
bugs
it
on
though.
there.
So I mean,
That would be cool.
before that.
If we could have that on video, that would be awesome. But I'm guessing nobody is to that point in the recorders yet.
Well, it said
Well,
it's a lot of
mean,
stuff. It spits out a lot of stuff to just constantly
Right.
record it and take pictures of it. We did mention that maybe we should write stuff down, but it sometimes it spews out a lot of nonsense, a lot of
But I mean,
jargon
if
that doesn't
we
seem to make sense, even though some of it correlates. Or I mean, who would have thought that there would have been a sleep attack, later on that night?
right, if we get an EVP though at that same time when you're getting the Ovilus to say sleep attack, if you're going through the recorder and around that same time you get an EVP that sounds like that,
That'd be
now you're
amazing.
cooking with fire. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah. Or even if we get an EVP
that's
at
the
the
cool
time.
part.
Yeah,
Right.
even if we get
Yeah.
an EVP at the time she's having the attack. What was your
Right.
question,
Right.
Amy?
Okay, so I was just wondering if anybody else listened to the recorder in that room, because I listened to it the next day. I mean, I know it's not technically evidence, but I listened to it the next day because I was trying to see if I could hear any evidence of anything else being in the room with me, and you can hear me freaking out.
Mm.
Really?
Yep.
I have that recorder.
I wrote it down in the times and stuff, and Rich, you took a picture of it. So you can
Yeah, I
hear
got
me, and it sounds like I'm trying to breathe. Sounds like I
Mm.
can't breathe.
So, and you were laying on your stomach. And
Mhm.
so what I want to know is, so you said that you swear you were awake, or because you're trying to figure out, was this awake? Was it a sleep paralysis situation in sleep? But from your viewpoint, thinking back to what you were looking at, because you said you could see the room around you.
Mhm.
Were you
I can see
were
the
you
top of
seeing?
Rob's head.
Okay, so that would have been normal. You laying on your stomach, you were able, even when you were getting ready to go to bed, like you were able to see the top of his head with your eyes open.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because
So
I was
you weren't seeing things from a different vantage point.
nope. I was
Okay.
seeing it from where I was at, and I was
Okay.
trying to figure out how to get Rob's attention. But I
Mm.
don't know, in between the first thing and the second thing, what kind of time passed in between that. Like I said on the recorder, it was a half an hour, because it was a half an hour from one panicking to another panicking where you can hear me making panicky noises. And
Right.
I don't really know what happened in between that time, because to me it didn't feel like any time passed. And I don't know why
Fucked
I
up.
didn't wake up Rob. I know it's horrible, because
That
I
is
felt bad
so
for myself
fucked up.
listening to it.
Oh my God, that is so fucked.
Hmm.
How are you now? Are you, because I haven't had a
I'm
chance to talk to you
fine.
guys. We haven't talked. And so most of the stuff I'm hearing for the first time. And so you're okay? I feel bad that I didn't.
Yeah, I'm fine. I actually, I kind of just reached out like on Facebook, like, has this happened to anybody before? And it's weird how many people have had this happen just in their own
Hmm.
beds.
The
So
sleep
I'm not sure if
paralysis,
my reaction would have been differently. I mean, I'm sure it would have been differently, right? If it was in my own bed, it would have been a weird situation, but maybe I wouldn't have been as afraid. Versus, I mean, I'm in a strange house, in a cot, and a house that's supposed to be haunted, and now something's sitting on my back and grabbing my ankles.
Yeah, it's the
So,
whole grabbing the ankles and sitting on the back at the same time.
yeah,
That's really like
I was being
different.
held down.
Yeah, it's different from any other sleep paralysis. I mean, sleep paralysis, like I've had it happen to me once before, and it was literally like I mean, you can't move, you panic, you can't breathe or anything. I was just having a nightmare that I was falling, and I felt myself fall. So then I just, went into that paralysis state, but I didn't feel like anything was grabbing my ankles. And I saw your post, and I started doing some reading on sleep paralysis. And I'm not saying that there were never reports of other things, other feelings that people had, but yours is unique in that instance, is that you were feeling two separate sensations in a same event. right? So you're experiencing sleep paralysis, but also feeling like somebody's pulling or holding down your ankles, or like, you know, you were being drugged. So that's wow.
I mean,
That's
I was gonna say both things could be true. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It could be sleep paralysis, but there could also be a connection that with that house, with you know what I mean? Like both things
Right.
could be true at the same time.
Right.
That
Mhm.
one goes with the other,
Yeah.
cause and effect
Right.
kind of thing.
Well,
I
what's
do
going to be?
think that also 2 hag attacks in a row, and
Yeah.
also the cat thing in a row is kind of
Hmm.
that's crazy. That's like movie dream
Right.
sequence kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I
And
was
we
pretty
had
much
to-
over it after that. It set the tone for the rest of the weekend, I think, for me, because I was tired and it was creepy. And
Set
I
the tone
didn't
for
want
me
to go to
because
bed
the
the
next
next
night I
night
was
at
like,
all. Yeah, I didn't want to go to bed the next night.
When we were investigating that night, before everybody went to sleep, it was a very strange feeling. Amy and I were investigating together, and we were going room by room upstairs. And the Ovilus, it was sending out very random words. And when we were in the master bedroom and investigating in that room, it really did seem to change the way the words were coming through, the frequency of how frequent the words would come in, the association of the words. For example, we did see the word sleep attack, and then we did also get open the door, and we were kind of dialoguing around that, and almost immediately it sent another message saying open door. And that's very strange because the Ovilus is intended to really send random messages at a duration of time, couple minutes in between sometimes. And this all was happening all kind of at the same time. And during that time, I had kind of that electric goosebump feeling, which is different than a cold
Mhm.
feeling, or like
Hmm.
you get goosebumps because you're cold outside or the temperature is cold. It's just a really different goosebump feeling, almost
now
like
add to
electric.
add flavor to that story. Didn't it say something about black cloak or man in a
Ooh.
cloak or something?
Yeah, I think you did say that.
I think I repeated
You guys
everything
told
that
it to me. Yeah.
Oculus was spitting out because it was so intriguing. And when I woke up, because it was uncomfortable on the cots, and about halfway through the night, I moved to a couch, which I immediately went back to the went to the cot because I was having such an allergic reaction, and I am very allergic to cats. And when I woke up in the morning, the first thing I said to Rich was, "There have got to be cats in here," and there very well could have been cats in there and on the couch and all of that. But I said, "There have got to be cats in here," because I just was having such a terrible, like, allergic reaction to cats. I couldn't even be on the couch. And all he said was, "You have to talk to Amy. You have to go talk to Amy and see how
Oh,
Amy's doing." So it was just kind of the whole multitude of things that were happening in such a short period of time. It was very strange.
It was weird.
Hmm.
But I
You
think
know that
one for us
that
though is we had enough recorders. We had enough recorders that kind of overlapped each other. So what that's good for is we might get it from a different angle, because
Mhm.
you could tell when people were in the same room as the recorder, or I could tell listening when they were upstairs or downstairs. You could tell like kind of distance from each recorder. So it'd be interesting at a time like when Amy said she could hear those panics, as to what it sounded like on a different one in the other room. Because maybe you're getting maybe you're getting like
Yeah.
you said, Brian. Maybe you're getting something corresponding with that we're not picking up on that other recorder, but maybe it's on the one in the hallway. So
Right.
we're I think we're digging into it pretty good. I think you two Brian's have one of the recorders that the one she's talking about, because it was one of those two that was on that speaker
Oh, I hope it's mine.
corner. I don't know which one I gave. They were both like the same type of recorder,
Mine-
so I don't know which
Okay.
one.
Mine's got
it
a lot
is,
of
but-
snoring in it right now, so that's the
Oh,
one.
you
I
probably got that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
there was
probably the
some
one that
snoring,
was in by
that's for
Rich.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of snoring on it.
Whoa, whoa,
okay.
whoa,
Wait a
whoa.
minute.
personal
Somebody had
attacks here. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Somebody, I have to interject because somebody posted on Facebook, I can't remember who, under the realm name,
Yeah.
that we were going to find out who snores the most. Now,
Good, told you
Amy's
that.
story was pretty incredible, but I want to know who this person was. Who snored the most?
It was it was either Jenny or Mr. Wizard.
That guy. Right
Because
there.
we were awake discussing it for a while.
Yeah, but here's the problem: is I was awake long enough to hear it, so I'm not
And
thinking it
so
was
was
me.
I. This is
I
the
need
argument
proof
him
you
and I
were
had at
awake.
home constantly.
I
Oh,
can see how
God.
red Jenny is over the camera.
It's okay. I've had my nights too. Amy,
it is what it
anything
is.
else that happened for you that you want to share with us? I mean, I know we'll be going over evidence, but anything else you can think of from your point of view?
No, I mean, I think that was pretty much sums it up for me.
I mean, that was fucking enough, right?
I had just, I was done after that. I think,
Rich,
like I
remember
said,
you and
I
I
couldn't
don't-
come back from that.
Rich, you and I downstairs got
weird.
statement
Yeah,
on the Oculus.
The
I
Ovilus
mean-
was spitting out some interesting words
Yeah.
all night. Like I said earlier, you'd get some that hit spot on, and then you'd get some that didn't make any sense. But then, you'd get those ones that just exactly fit. And
So, yeah, I have a question, Amy. Did you remember after that happened that you got sleep attack on the Ovilus? When did you?
I didn't remember that until the next morning when I was talking about it, and they were like, "Oh my God, it said sleep attack."
Yeah, I don't know how you got through the rest of the weekend. You're a real trooper. Thank you so much. For,
Yeah,
well,
that's
we were
bad.
playing cards in the basement the next night,
that was
and Jenny and Rich went up to go to bed. And what did it say the next night?
It said, I have a picture of it somewhere. I
It's
thought
like monster, run, hide, and I'm like,
hide.
let's just go upstairs.
But it was all in a row. It was all.
I'm like, I'm done.
He's like, peace. I'm out. Deuces.
Well, we also before Jenny and Rich went to bed, we were all playing cards because
That
I don't know
sounded
why
cool.
downstairs is the card room, or maybe that's just whatever. But Minnie was apparently 21, not 21 years old, 21 blackjack. That was her game. So we were playing that game downstairs, and there was reports that people had interacted, like asking if she wanted to be hit or not, and not hit like
In cards.
cards, yeah.
Yeah.
So that the K2 was lighting up, or
Oh shit.
cards were being knocked down. So we were trying the same thing to try and recreate it, and some seemed to be, kind of make sense, and other stuff didn't. But when we got to, I'm trying to see if I can still find that picture, because I believe I took a picture of it and I posted it. I don't know exactly the game goes, but remember she had two sets. She had two
Yeah,
20.
she was.
she split
It
two
should-
cards. I don't remember what she split, but she split something.
There were three.
Jenny says threes. Pair of
Right.
threes.
So we said, like,
It
you
was
want to
an
get
odd
hit? She wasn't
combination,
responding, but we didn't. She got two 21s.
So let
And
me clarify.
the Obulus said yes, all in capital letters after that happened.
Like
So
right
let me
after.
clarify.
Like, yes.
So wait, I want to clarify. You guys were playing 21 with the spirit through an Ovilus and a K2 meter.
Yes.
That is brilliant.
We were having so much
So-
fun. We were
so,
hooting and
right, but-
hollering and
Right after she got her two 21s in one hand.
You say she because you think it was Minnie, right?
Minnie. Yeah, that's what we're
So
thinking.
we say she.
That's fine. That's
But
fine.
it said, but right, two 21s, and we're all like, yeah, because it was, I mean, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, it was
But
crazy.
the Obulus said yes in all capital letters.
Yep.
Right after that.
I have it on
Which
video.
was weird. But here, so me and Amy continued to play down there, and a monster opened the door, hide now.
Oh my god.
All in a row
before you
came
say
up.
that, Rob, I wanted to throw in the one last Ovilus comment that was made, because Rich had said You
Yeah.
know what? I'm really tired. I gotta go to bed. It's been a long night. Rob's saying, I wouldn't even go to bed this early if I was at home. And Rich is like, no, I haven't gotten enough sleep and I'm just really exhausted. I'm ready for bed. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna go to bed too, I think. And just as we said that, the ovulus said, off you go.
Oh
It
my
was it
god.
was yet another very strange coincidence, but it was just we were just having so much fun, and the odds of getting 21 by splitting threes. I mean,
Threes,
it's one
yeah,
thing if
for
you
real.
get an ace and then you try to split your
Well, if I
card.
remember right, wasn't
Base
well,
cards.
if I remember right, it came down to she needed like a certain card in order to get it without busting, like a 3 or a 2.
It
We were
was
like,
really a low
oh,
card.
yeah, it was like
Gene.
It
really
was an
close.
ace, and I said, "Let's
Something,
do it."
yeah,
Somebody said, "Have her hold," and I said, "Dude, what if it's an
yeah,
ace?
right,
Do it." And he did it, and it was an ace.
yeah, and
Oh
then
my
and we
gosh.
jumped up, and then right away it said yes, and I had my body cam on that whole sequence of her getting that card and us doing that and the yes, and I have a video of the ovulus saying with it on there,
So
so
That's
we
yeah,
do
the
have that.
obulus, like I said, it's not one of my favorite things, but like the whole a monster opened a door and whatnot was all just too coincidental. And as we were down there playing cards, that's when we thought Brian came down the stairs.
Yep,
Mm.
for
And
sure.
I thought I actually thought it was him coming down the hallway, but later when we heard him go back, it definitely wasn't what we heard. But it sounded like him coming down the stairs, and
It
everybody
did.
was greeting him.
Yeah,
Brian, what's up? Hey, you came down to play cards. Hey, and
Hmm.
there was nobody on the stairs, but he did go down the hallway and he did go up the stairs, and you could kind of hear the stairs when you went up downstairs. When you went upstairs, downstairs, you could still hear the stairs pretty good. So
so it
it's
had to be that, but
yeah, it had to be that, but
yeah.
everybody was so sure he was
Oh
coming
yeah,
down the stairs.
yep. I thought for sure when I turned around behind me, the next thing I'd see is him step on the next step, and we
Hmm.
all kind of just looked for a minute. We were like, "Holy shit, he's not there!" And then we realized we never heard the door open
Hmm.
because that basement door is loud enough when you turn the handle that clearly no one's sneaking down those steps
so what was it?
through
It
that
was him
doorway.
walking upstairs in the
I
I think
hallway
it
think
was.
there?
that's what it
That's the
was,
only
him
thing we came
going
up
up
with.
the stairs,
Yep.
and it
Okay.
just echoed through it, which is louder than him walking down the hall, which was right over our heads.
That's
Yeah.
really weird.
It was a weird thing that happened. Yeah, when we were sitting down there, that was a strange one.
So
Yeah, I got up and went up the stairs, and I really expected to see him when I turned the landing to go up the next flight. I really expected to see him at least standing there going rah or boo or something, and nothing. He just wasn't there. And so when I got up and opened up the door to the upstairs, I'm like, Brian, where are you? And I'm like, are you here? And
Hmm.
he's like, I'm peeing. He was upstairs. I'm like,
uh,
okay, I was just wondering if you were on the stairs.
Yeah,
And
there was no way it was
go
him
to bed.
downstairs. So
uh, so well, that was a paranormal mystery you figured out. You were able
yeah.
to debunk that.
Now
Um,
I have one more thing there for Brian asking about personal experiences. We had one more that myself and Brian had. We in the child's room we were talking about. We had some trigger objects set up on the floor, and I've got music box, paranormal music box. So it has a sensor on the front. It plays like the old time crank little, type music, ding, 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 that type of thing. So it's kind of creepy when it happens. But if you block the sensor, you got to be like I think we figured out was like around 6 feet with around the area, depending on how you would swing it around. So you really had to set it up right. So nothing was in the way. Otherwise it would just constantly go off. But you could test it where you could get it to start and stop. So I was in that room, setting it up on the floor, getting it just perfect so that if something tried to grab the trigger objects, it would go off, or they would have had to walk actually into the room to try to get around it for it to go off. I did that. And when I was setting it up, Rob took a picture of me setting it up. I think Brian was in the room with me or outside by the door because we were getting ready to go to the next one. So I said, okay, it's all good. We agreed. Everything's good. Walked up and down the hallway, the whole thing. We checked it. Doesn't go off. So we go in the room next to it, shut the door, and it's like it's the library, I believe, is actually what it was called. And we sat down in the two chairs there, and we just started talking, doing an EVP session. And all of a sudden, I hear the music box in the room next to us, and it played like 2 or 3 tunes and stopped. So I looked at Brian. I'm like, the music box just went off. I'm like, and now it's stopped. I said, you can't do that. It's impossible. I said, that would mean something had to have moved in front of it and stepped away from it to get it to stop. And while we were there, nobody was in the hallway because we had the door closed, but we could see a light underneath the door. So nothing ever walked by. We never heard anybody walk through the hallway. So nobody else was up there but us. So that was really interesting because then after we got done, I went back in the room with them. I said, I got to test this out. I got to make sure. And I tested and it still was set up the exact same way. Nothing could have caused it to go off for that couple tunes and stop without crossing in front of it. So, not quite sure what it was yet. We had a camera in that room. I had my body cam and we had a recorder. So, I mean, I'm hoping we do catch something on one of those things. It'd be nice. But I think it's safe to say from our personal experiences and stuff we've heard already on our equipment, I think it was pretty active. I think I could speak for the other people, the other guys that were there, and they can speak up if they want. But I think that was one that was kind of interactive right from the beginning. Because we've been to a lot of places where you try to get that interaction with the cat balls or the EMF or the K2, and it just doesn't happen. So it was interesting that we were able to get those things to happen when we were there and get that interaction with the equipment. It was really cool because it doesn't happen all the time. So you guys agree? Or
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Rob, I wanted to kind of defer to you. You were talking. I just want to kind of backtrack just real quick to the Amy situation because what I wanted to interject was that I mean, you guys have been married for a long, long, long ass time now. You've had a long, long life together. So you know a
I
lot about
know.
each other, and just in the 8-10 years that maybe 8 years or so that we've known you and been on investigations with you, Amy, I've never seen you have an experience before like this. Like never. You're not afraid to go in anywhere. You'll go into any room by yourself. You'll do whatever, no matter what claims the location has, and you've never walked out, with this kind of experience or even felt any type of fear or anything like that. And then to have you listen back to your recorder and hear yourself go through that again, like I can't imagine what that was like for you. And so I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought up, Rob, like how genuine her fear was because
It's
wow.
not in her character like that. Like I said, she's not a scaredy cat like that. It's not easy to convince her of anything because she's pretty stubborn. I mean, as far as any of this paranormal stuff goes, she's skeptical, and to see that kind of fear, I don't think I've ever actually even seen her scared like that before. So it seemed really, I if you heard this story and you might be sitting back at home and going, well, I don't know, anybody can say that kind of thing, but to actually have been with her and to express her emotion, it was pretty genuine situation. I felt,
Yep, I agree.
and I too am, like I said, I'm an open-minded believer, but I'm also a skeptic, and I will fight tooth and nail to try and find the solution to any, debunk that's any situation. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, so it's like almost like a movie dreamlike situation that you would have 3 in a row. And plus, I woke up in a drunken stupor kind of thing,
Yeah,
looking for slippers I didn't even bring with.
that's crazy.
That's
And
interesting. Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
I
it
mean,
was.
overall, Rob, is there like anything else that you would want to share while you have the mic?
No, to me, sometimes I feel that after Farrar, I've just burnt it out. I don't have experiences really anymore. Everybody else does. I didn't have any fear cage situations. Um, I mean, I won't know that I got anything on my recorders till I review the evidence. Everybody else seemed to get the interaction. I'm glad a lot of it's on video, like Brian's when we pulled up and he already had that situation where recorded where he said, "Can you bring the bring it up to 2?" And it went up to 2.2 like right after he said it, and then it dropped back down. I mean, that was really cool. So besides just being part of the Amy experience, and even the next night, she was pretty afraid. I was told I could not leave the room after she fell asleep.
I agree.
Right? So good thing the bathroom was across the hall, and nothing else really happened for me. I mean, I still like the Ovilus thing is just a weird device to me. It's not like a thing that I would pick as one of my normal arsenal for ghost hunting, but I've never really seen it act as it did this weekend. Where I mean, some stuff was way out in left field, and other stuff was kind of spot on. And once it said sleep attack in that situation,
And I just have to say, like, I mean, walking into that house, and I mean, this is just the way I am anyway. I didn't get the creeps. I don't, it didn't make me uncomfortable. I didn't go to bed thinking, "Ooh, this place is creepy," and then have like a weird dream. I don't get that way. I feel like I can walk into these places most of the time and not have anything like feeling like, like I'm afraid to go in there. I'll sit in an attic by myself. I don't care. And it usually doesn't bother me. So it's not like I went to bed thinking like, "Oh, this place is so creepy," or whatever, and kind of put that thing in my head. And, even the sleep attack thing, I mean, it came up, it went in my head and out of my head. I was not thinking about it. So it's not like it planted the seed for
Right,
anything
yeah.
any different than any other
Mhm.
time. But I mean, definitely after all that, I barely slept, and every like little creak in the house, my blankets were like this, and I'm like, you know what I mean? I mean, it was weird. It was
Well, yeah,
it was
I mean,
horrible.
and
It was horrible.
to your point, you've been on a ton of investigations where you know what the claims are, and you didn't experience any of those. So so it's
Right.
there was if there was ever a seed planted and something happened after the fact, there would have been many other opportunities for that to happen. So I truly
Yeah,
don't
that's what I
believe
mean. Like
that.
it wasn't like I was freaking
Yeah,
out before I went to bed.
yeah,
So I don't know. And I mean, when I'm looking at research, it'll say like, "Oh, you're stressed or you're tired or overtired or whatever." Well, like when are we not overtired when we drove that far and we stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing investigations or 3? Like we've done that,
yeah.
and it's never happened to me.
And
Yeah.
you've raised a family on no sleep.
Right.
So
And I've got kids and whatever. And
and
I don't
me,
know. Yeah, and
yeah.
Rob, it's more.
So I'm really curious, for you, Brian, what were some personal experiences that you had?
Me,
Brian S.
S.
Right, S.
F as in Frank. I
Yeah.
mean S. I meant S.
Yeah,
Oh my
no,
god.
you had it the first time. You were very concrete with that thinking.
Yeah. Really, the first I was there by myself. I got there about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I just went in and started, and I put the K2 down in front of me, right in the same room where Amy had her episode, actually. So in the same room, my Kez's K2 and my Mel meter, and I just started just asking questions. I said, I actually just sent the video to everybody. I just got it. So I just started asking, is there anybody here? Is there anybody with me? Can you make yourself known? And my K2 started
I can't
flicking
believe
on
you
and
did
off.
that by yourself.
Yeah. And I had the Mel next to me, and I'm watching it. And it's 0.1, 0.2, 6. Said, can you make it go to 2.0? It went up to like 1.8, 1.6, or then it went back down. The very next thing was 2.2.
Now, what were your baselines? Were your baselines like you went and did baselines, and you weren't experiencing that when you did
No,
baselines?
zero, nothing.
Okay.
No, the house was cold before when I got there, and as the sun went down, it was getting worse. And right when everybody else came, I jacked the heat up in there. I didn't even know where the thermostat was, and I found it, so I jacked the heat up in there because it was getting chilly in there. And that was the first. I thought that was exciting. I said, "This is great." Within The
Right.
first hour, I'm getting activity here. Then the first thing I did when everybody showed up, I had it on my phone and I showed Rich. I
Mhm.
showed Rich and Rob and Amy what was going on in there. Friday night seemed to be a little more active than Saturday. Saturday seemed kind of a little bit slow. But like I said, we got hours of recordings to go through and body cams.
Yeah.
The other one I thought was interesting, again, where Rich and I were upstairs in what we call the smoking room, just a little red 2-chair room. I think it was tiny. And then when that music box went off, Rich and I just kind of looked at each other and went, there's nobody up here. And something set that thing off. And that was interesting too. That was Saturday afternoon. That thing
Oh
was-
yeah, you know what? I forgot to say that we did a lot during the day on
Yes.
Saturday.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. So
Also-
yeah, some of that stuff happened during the day.
Yes. Yeah.
Didn't we have a camera in that room?
Yeah, we did.
Mhm.
We do.
So we have that. We will have that whole scene where
We
that
had the
just
whole
goes
room.
off by
Yeah.
itself, so we can prove there were no little mousies in there.
Yeah, and I
Right.
had it set. I mean, obviously we have audio for the camera, but the way I had that music box set up, I had it set so you could see the little light on top light up too.
Mhm.
You know, so that when we were watching at base camp when we didn't have sound, if it went off, we could tell, and that's where we could see a lot of the interaction with the cat balls and the K2 stuff. We actually got a lot of it on some sort of video, I think. So it's cool.
Anything else happen for you, Brian?
No, that was really about it. When Rich and I tried going downstairs by ourselves, the two of us, and we're trying to play 21 too. We had nothing really go down there, but the Ovilus came up statement. That was Saturday afternoon again after Amy's issues on Friday night. And Rich and I thought that was an interesting word to come across. And I had asked, okay, did you make a statement with
statement,
Amy last night? And we didn't get anything else coming across there. Because Rich and I were really trying to get that thing to answer something, if whatever it was that bothered Amy. And
Yeah.
nothing came across.
Yeah, we did a lot of it. Tell us, names and specific things like that, but we never did get anything come across that could have even been related to those questions.
I remember a couple names came across, but nothing to
Nothing
what we found
Yeah, nothing
was
to,
remotely associated with the house at all.
So, did you guys
Right,
find
right.
any information about a cat there?
The only thing I found was a psychic had told Jill there was a ghost cat named Samson. That was the only thing I found.
Samson came to visit you,
Yeah.
Amy.
So that was the only thing I found about a cat.
Came to the rescue.
Well, and maybe maybe Samson was like, "Get the fuck off her," you know?
Yeah.
That's,
Right. Well, and that cat thing didn't make me feel uncomfortable. Like I wasn't
yeah,
scared
you felt
about the cat
safe.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, seeing when people are bullshitting, when people are lying.
Yeah.
She wasn't lying. She was startled after
That's what I'm
all
saying.
this.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't hey guys, this is what happened. She was genuinely afraid.
Yeah.
And I
That was
think-
hard to hear. That was
and
really
when
hard to hear.
I
Yeah.
was upstairs sleeping on Friday night, I told Rob and Amy, you two take the bed upstairs, because if it happens to Amy, she's right next to Rob.
Yeah.
So she could at least wake him and get his attention. And I
Yeah.
took downstairs where those two slept on Friday night.
And
I
you didn't
took-
have any experience when you
Nothing.
were there.
Zero. Nothing at all.
I do remember that. So just to interject, and then we'll get on with the other two of you that were there with Jenny and Rich. We'll have you guys speak to your experience. But Brian, you had to leave the market. Brian and I were at the Kenosha Awakening Spiritual Market in Kenosha, Wisconsin on the Saturday that the team was investigating. We had a booth there, kind of just advertising our podcast investigation team, and we did a speaking presentation in the theater at the Rhodey Theater. When we were there, we patched in via Zoom to the team as they were live on the investigation. Brian at that point had to leave, but Brian, what happened while you were gone, and I was interviewing the team here
Right.
for our guests to be there. There were noises. There was a door that closed, and I don't know if they ever figured out which door it was. So you guys can speak to that after that. But the whole team was sitting there just like this in gallery view as I'm.
And they all did
in this yes,
They all did
Everybody
that
looked
thing.
around. I mean, you could hear it. I could hear it through there. I was like, what the heck is the noise in the background? Because they're all sitting there. And at the same time, they're getting these weird spikes on the K2 that they hadn't been getting up to that
Hmm.
point. So it wasn't the laptop, it wasn't cell phones, it wasn't,
Right.
they weren't
Mhm.
getting these hits. But in the middle of this presentation, as they're
Huh, I didn't know that.
to the guests that came to watch us and learn more about what we do, yeah, this, I mean, live as we're doing, it couldn't have been any better. You know, as we're giving this presentation, we have things happening for them at this house. So, and
Mhm.
I mean, the door was very loud. I mean, that's what it sounded like. Did you
Yeah.
guys ever figure out what that was?
No.
No, no. I can say that there was not a lot of noise in the house
No.
other than the furnace kicking on and off. So there wasn't like you could hear like the refrigerator turning on and off, things like that. Where every
Or
now and then-
outside noise.
or
And there
outside
wasn't
Very
any
noise.
kind
quiet
of,
town.
and there was not any kind of vacuum that was created when the furnace would go on and off to like
No, we
No.
never had any of that.
No, we didn't have nothing. All you could hear when you were sitting downstairs, you could hear the furnace kicking on. You could hear the fan kick in, stuff like that, and you could hear the vent expand or contract, whatever. When it kicked on, you hear it pop a little bit, but we knew what that was.
right.
What we heard was clearly through the
Yes.
floor. It was something upstairs, and but to my point is there was nothing really any noise there that you could say every 10 minutes you knew what was going to happen. So for us to hear that noise and then not hear it again, like you said, Gina, it was really weird. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure what door that was. I mean, at the top of it wasn't the basement door, because that one you could definitely hear a lot of rattling and stuff like that. But right at the top of that door to the left was like the front door. So I mean, maybe we heard something. Maybe it was a door like that moving or something. I'm not really sure because yeah, I didn't see anything when I popped my head up there. So
Well, so Jenny, what about you? Did you have any? I mean, you obviously had some really great experiences playing blackjack with Minnie, the house ghost there, and the Ovulus, the things that came across the Ovulus. Anything else happened to you, or anything you want to share about the investigation?
Well, one thing that I found really interesting, I talked to Amy about this, is that only one other time have I been on an investigation where I really got that electric goosebumps kind of feel, and that was for our. And so that was something when the Ovulus was sending words. Many of them seemed random, and some of them did not. And so, for example, I had many words in a row that were related to water, and down he's down at the bottom of the water, and it was very consistent. There had to have been 5 or 6 words in a row that were related to water, riverside, all in a panic type thought process. And when I went on day 2, when we were there, Amy and I were looking on the internet and looking for like information on the Boyd house history. We watched a documentary. We watched some interviews with Jill and some of the other paranormal teams that have been through the house. And some of the accounts that they were sharing were directly tied into what the Ovulus was portraying. For example, the open door, one of the mediums that had been in had talked about how the children had been locked in a closet in that master bedroom. And so that was kind of weird. And then of course there was like something posted in the house about the flood that happened in 1917 or whatever the case may be. And it talked about how devastating that flood was.
yeah,
And
picture of
it
the house
was,
underwater.
So, I mean,
yeah.
how freaked out were you guys whenever you started doing research the day after you receive all these
Exactly.
birds come through?
I didn't know it beforehand. And then when we're reading this, I'm like, oh, I really need to pay more attention when I'm getting that goosebump electric feeling, because I thought some of it was random. Some of it seemed like a really strange story. And then the next day, finding the information and going back and saying, oh my gosh, there was a huge flood, and that was a really big deal. And that was a big part of this house's history. And I didn't know that, but there was so much on the obelisk talking about water and a panic situation. And then there was a time where I put a ball up on an end table, and there had been claims of the ball going down the stairs after being asked to put the ball down the stairs. And Rich said that's probably not a good idea. Somebody could trip on it. So I put it on the end table in the kids' room. And I had gone up to use the restroom, came out, looked in, the ball was on the floor. And I'm like, Rich, that ball is on the floor. And so we went back and looked at the cameras right away, and it had gotten knocked over right after our Facebook Live session. It was kind of like somebody had swung around and it, yeah, it was
like it knocked off by itself. Nothing.
No, Rob knocked it off,
Rob.
but we did.
Oh,
We didn't
So
know.
that was the whole thing is, and we're all of us up there looking at her like debunked.
I got really good at using that
We had
DVR
a lot
system.
of fun.
Yes.
Good.
We had a good time. I did have the heebie-jeebies going to sleep the second night, which is very unusual for me as well. But I was also probably freaked out because of what had happened to Amy. And I, deliberately reached over and just like, swung at Rich's arm, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Nothing."
just want to make sure you're within
I
arm's
did
reach.
get kind of freaked out the second night, but not enough where it like I still slept. But yeah, I did get heebie-jeebies the second night, which was a little strange for me. But I didn't get any more of that goosebump type feeling that I was feeling the first night.
Well, I tell you,
You
I
know-
feel a lot better after hearing Jenny's imitation of everybody else. Because at first I was kind of insulted, but everybody sounds the same, so I don't feel as insulted now.
I was gonna say there's been a couple of times already where we've talked about that electric feeling or that type of a thing, and it popped in my head apropos to that of what the best way to describe that is, because we've all had the chills or you get goosebumps. But if you remember when you were a kid and you take a 9-volt battery and you touch it to your tongue, that feeling that you would get, the feeling is like that, but everywhere.
Yes.
That's like the best
Everywhere.
way that I can just like it's a different feeling than just when you get the chills or something. You get the oof. It's
Right.
different than that.
Oh, yeah,
like
it's definitely
that's
different.
for some reason that popped in my head that was a good description of trying to let people maybe get a reference point for that, how the feeling is different.
Right. I agree.
So, Rich, what about you?
Well, I said before, I think with what we've got so far and right off the bat, we've had some things that normally we don't get. And I don't know. I had those couple experiences. I kind of was involved with a couple of those with the basement, with the steps, and with the music box. And I didn't tell anybody this. I think I might have told Jenny this. I'm not sure if I said this after the fact, but I thought I saw something in the kitchen on that second night. I happened to be laying there, and I didn't have my glasses on, obviously, because I was sleeping, but I was awake because I was deciding if I wanted to go to the bathroom or not. So I was laying there, and out of the corner of my eye, because the way we were laying, you could see the doorway, and it was the pantry light was on, and the TV screen monitor was on, so the room was kind of lit up, but you could see stuff in there. And out of the corner of my eye, it just looked like something went through the kitchen. So
I can't wait to get through
personal
that.
experience, yeah. I couldn't find anything to back that up yet. I'm hoping that I have something on camera, because that one camera that night, Rob wasn't sleeping there, so you got a lot more of the room. So if anything did go through there, it's definitely going to be on camera. But it was just odd because I don't get that a lot either. For me to have that out of the corner of my eye, you hear a lot of people talk about that, where that feeling of seeing something in the corner of your eye. Well, I don't really get that a lot, and that was kind of weird to see that. So that was another experience I had. But other than that, I didn't feel threatened when we were in the house. I mean, the first night with Amy, that kind of was a little bit frightening for everybody. I think I speak for everybody. We were a little concerned. We take that stuff seriously. When we're on site, because we've had that happen before. We kind of band
Rob
together.
ruined that for us.
What?
Just messing with you. For those of you that have not listened to that episode, go back to some episodes from last season, was it, I believe, where Rob talked about his experience with being entertained by an entity of some sort and influenced. So
What was the name of that episode?
I believe that was on the ghosts, spirits, and entities, and we talked about. I think the actual title of it was like, oh gosh, possession, like maybe possessed.
It was on possession, yeah.
Yeah, it was on possession. So, yeah, you guys all have to definitely listen to that episode, and you'll know why we're always picking on Rob a little bit. It was not funny at the
No,
time.
it was not funny. Never is funny when it happens. We all band together. That night, like I said, Brian offered up a solution to it to try to ease it and make things a little bit better. We try to do that for each other. So
that's awesome.
But we took it seriously, and then it was in our heads. The next day for investigating during the day and at night. It was in the back of all of our heads. I mean, I don't know that we focused on it too much. We kind of were aware of it, but we kind of pressed on with everything else. But it was a quieter night, I think, feeling wise. The second night,
Yeah, because I mean, what you focus on expands. So you guys handled it correctly. And for those of you out there, wanting to run and investigate some places or even go to this place, like Rich said, we do take stuff like that very seriously. So if something were to become too much for one person, like it's an all for one for all kind of situation. So if it at all felt safe or just didn't feel good to finish out the investigation, it would have been terminated at that time, and we would have just went over with whatever evidence we had at that time, because it's definitely not worth putting yourself in a situation where it affects you negatively after the fact. So so Amy, I'm glad that you're feeling better and kind of, hopefully emotionally, mentally speaking, like it won't be something that affects you moving forward, and you can just chalk it up. Yeah.
Right.
So
hopefully it was just a one-off situation, because
it's
not something I ever care to repeat.
Right. Kez was supposed to go on that investigation and ended up not going. How salty are you, Kez?
Honestly, I'm pretty salty. Not gonna lie.
I just wish it wasn't so far. I mean, it's 8 hours from here.
Yeah.
It's so far.
That's what it was with my work schedule. I was gonna be working Friday and Monday, and then a 7-8 hour drive on top of it. I knew I was
tough.
not.
That was not. Yeah, I drove back nonstop. I
tough.
stopped for gas, and it took me like 7 hours and 15 minutes to get home. That's it. It's cheap. It's a very interesting place. It's a very quiet town. Yeah. But it's just too far. Rich and I were talking. Put a cap on how far maybe some of these places are.
But I think
so far to go.
I think we needed to do it. I think it was good for the group, and I think and I think it was a good I think it was a good place. I think we're going to be surprised and pleasantly surprised at that after we go through the evidence, because I think we have enough stuff that is going to say, hey, it was at least worth going.
It was definitely worth a drive, and actually, that's just part of the adventure. I mean, I'm always willing to go for the ride, but probably the next time we'll have our tour bus and that the whole way.
Oh, I'm definitely not.
Tour bus is the Scooby van.
Yep.
Oh,
dream big, my friend. Dream big.
That's right up Kez's alley. Kez is a huge Scooby-Doo. Well, I am too, but Kez is a bigger fan. But we need our tour bus. And like you said, I agree with you, Rob. I'm always down for like an adventure, for travel. It just it was an investigation we kind of squeezed in a little bit that we didn't have on our radar. So I think that was a lot into it that might have felt overwhelming for the drive and whatever. But my question is, based on the information that, just based on the experiences, and you had somebody say, okay, yes or no, haunted or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Amy?
I don't know.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me that while I was there, I would say absolutely. But, as I left the place, and then I was asking other people of their experiences, and people have said that they've had these experiences in their own bed. you know,
But
I don't
ankles
know.
and being held
I
down?
know, I don't
just feel
know.
like
I don't know. But I
you're
mean,
brave
for
to do
real,
it.
I was like ready to be out of there when I was there.
Yeah.
But once I got away from there and I could look at it and I had a good night's sleep and I was comfortable in my own zones, you know, I just started not second guessing myself because I mean, it was very clear. There's no doubt that I was awake. It was
Right.
not a dream. But I don't know. I mean, I still don't.
I find it funny that like I feel like gosh, I didn't realize you were the one that was going to be hard to impress. Your husband says haunted and you say, "Gosh, I don't know. I was nearly choked to
I
death,
mean,
but
like I
I
said,
don't
when
know."
I was there, after that happened, I'm like, this place is haunted. But once, like I said, I got away got away from there, kind of cleared my head a little bit. Then I'm like, well, I mean, I looked up a bunch of stuff too, and I did listen to Rob's podcast and about the hag attacks and stuff, and I mean, it is a scientific thing. People have these, you know, sleep paralyzation situations, and so I don't know. I mean, once again, though,
but
I
don't
wasn't
you think?
stressed.
But don't you think that having that the ankle grabbing situation that has been reported before
Yeah,
and
but I
the
feel like
cat situation happening to you? I mean, the cats aren't common in the
right,
sleep paralysis world.
right. But in
Especially
our
having your
world, I'm always getting like walked across by a cat, so it could have just been maybe then I was
Muscle
dreaming or
memory.
something.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
seriously, it's a daily part of my life.
yeah.
But when I did kind of the Facebook poll thing, I mean, I want to say people said they felt like they were being dragged. They felt like they were drowning. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know what to say.
What about you, Jenny? Haunted
You
or
know,
not?
I want to say yes, but I'm really excited about the evidence because I feel like when you're looking at something, all the emotions are also involved and all of the excitement and even though I'm a skeptic, you still want to experience things that are haunted and are supernatural. So I want to say yes, but I think I would be more confident after I listen to the evidence and I can pair things up a little bit better. I had a lot of fun and I felt like, oh, that could be, and it seemed to be haunted, but I'd rather wait to feel really confident until I have some more of the evidence, which I've already started listening to and I am getting things. So I'm leaning towards yes, but just want to be able to
Awesome.
go through some
you were
more.
supposed to just give a yes or no based on your
I know, I
I
opinion.
just
know.
can't.
Hey, all guys are all analyzing it.
All right, Rich. Yes or no? Haunted or
Yes.
not? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Kez, your opinion after hearing all this, apart from hearing any evidence, what would you say? Believability, haunted or not?
I mean, based on just what you guys are saying, yes, it sounds haunted, and I'm excited for some evidence review. I like the videos, so bring it on.
Yeah, we'll be watching those. What about you, Brian?
Um, Undetermined. I will say. I mean, Rich and I were talking about it a little bit last night, even about an orb. There was some talk of that.
Mhm.
I will beat a dead horse with this stuff, so I'm excited to kind of get into it to really see how much things can be debunked. And to try to put a finer point on what I was trying to say with Amy and the sleep paralysis is there being a correlation between both things being true. We know that sleep paralysis is a real thing. We know neurologically they can see when it happens. They know how that happens. If this is something that never happens to Amy and you're in this situation, if we go off of our theory of, entities or ghosts being energy and needing energy to do things, it's possible that if you want to make a jump to a connection, that maybe there was an entity or something that was doing something with some sort of energy neurologically triggering the sleep paralysis. And that's why it was so quick in succession. that's why it happened while you were there. Like, just trying to find a way to, there could be a paranormal aspect to something that is totally explainable also.
Yeah. Especially if you feel like you were awake, then how is it sleep paralysis? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, right, but I feel like you are kind of awake during sleep paralysis. I think that's
I mean,
why.
yeah, when you wake
That's how
up,
it
yeah.
works.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, when you wake up, but I mean, for me, when it happened, I hit the ground. And so I remember feeling that way in my sleep. And then I'm waking up to this feeling. So I
Mhm.
knew that I was dreaming beforehand. And I woke up from this dream with the sleep paralysis. So I'd be really interested to know the people that answered your poll. Were they actively dreaming when they woke up to this feeling of sleep
Yeah,
paralysis?
that I'm
That
not
would
sure.
be. That would be something that I would be really interested in hearing.
Right. Right.
Kez, do
Yeah,
you have
I'm
any?
not sure.
Do you have any thoughts, Kez? Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to ask the crew?
No, no final thoughts. I just want to get to this evidence.
I
Sounds
know.
like it's a good investigation. Sounds like there's a lot of stuff waiting to be discovered in there.
Yeah. And once again, Brian S., thank you so much for doing the history, for coming on when you're sick and
For
sitting through
giving
the
up your bed.
podcast. Yeah, for giving up your bed to Amy and Rob, and just for, and talking, with your voice being, with you being sick today, and giving the history today, and just and bringing this investigation to our family, to our team here. We're so glad that you're a part of TRPD. So we got a good group. This was a great investigation. We got more coming at you guys. Just please, please, please stay tuned. Let us know what you think about this, and hopefully you'll be excited as we are to get this evidence review out to you. So as soon as we have this evidence review done, we're going to put together a video and some audio, and we'll let you know when it comes out. But in the meantime, keep checking back with our weird weekly news every week, and then every other Monday through the rest of the season. Through the end of the year, we will have a full episode for you. Okay, so we have more investigations coming up, guys. So stay tuned. With that, stay weird, everybody. Ciao.
Bye.
Nice.
Pizza saying.